Welcome to the channel, everyone. On this channel, we share stories of average Joes around the world and their not so average issues. Let's start with the first story. I helped my suicidal sister's boyfriend break up with her and it triggered her drug overdose. Am I the worst person ever? I, 23 male, have a 21 female sister. Although we grew up sharing a moderately close bond, that's not the case anymore since I moved to another state for university. We still talk regularly and share life updates, but not physically being there means that it's 10 times harder to know when something is going really, really wrong. This is one such incident. I'll preface this by saying that my sister has been sad for as long as I can remember. This has a lot to do with our parents. It's because my sister lived with our grandparents until she was 11, while I lived with our parents. The reason for this is that we were undergoing a financially rough situation at that time, with my parents working 24/7 to make ends meet and put food on the table. They found it hard to provide for both my sister and I. Since I was the elder one, I was the generally quiet sibling between the both of us and didn't create too much trouble for my parents. They trusted me to look after myself even in their absence. So it was decided that my sister would live with grandma and grandpa for a few months and I would stay with my parents. I don't know why they didn't just send the both of us away, but that's just how it happened. My sister had to change schools and leave her friends behind since she was very young and didn't understand any of these changes. She thought she was only going away for a weekend for the usual sleepover at grandpa's place. After a few days passed, she would call us up frequently and asked when mom and dad were going to come and pick her up. When she finally realized that wasn't going to happen soon, she would start to cry and throw a tantrum. In the beginning, we would routinely visit her every Sunday and mom and dad would even take us to have picnics at the park. But as weeks turned into months, the visits became few and far in between. My parents wanted to use the recharge instead of driving all the way to the countryside for my sister. A few months became 3 full years, and as my sister was about to start school, it was decided that she would come back to us. These 3 years of separation caused her a lot of resentment and gave her abandonment issues. I came to understand this years later when she confided in me. She never understood why my parents kept me around but made her leave. She took this to mean that she was inadequate or even unwanted in the household, and even after coming back to us, she was very distant and cold to my parents at least. I tried my best to reconnect and mend our sisterly bond. It took years worth of trying and failing and fighting, but by the time she was 15, we were kinda close again. She would start to share her secrets with me again, tell me about the boys she liked and the girls she hated, etc. But high school was when things started going wrong. My sister had started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and now she really began to act out. I knew she was sneaking out of the house behind my parents' back and staying up till ungodly hours with her friends. She was skipping classes, getting into trouble with her teachers, earning detention slips left and right. You get the deal. If she was bad at school, she was worse at home. She would get into huge fights with my parents, who would give out all sorts of punishments in an effort to control her. Their relationship only worsened as the years passed, and my sister never quite got the closure she needed about being left out of the family for 3 years. Things came to a head when she attended a high school dance drunk out of her mind. My parents were called and she was sent back immediately. Obviously, this led to one of the loudest arguments till date. They took away her phone and laptop and even the door to her room. She was to strictly have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the table, and my dad even grilled her window shut so that she couldn't try to sneak out anymore. In contrast, I was rarely yelled at or even paid attention to be honest. Not gonna say it didn't sting. No one really cared where I went and what I did, and I can't explain why, but that hurt. My sister, however, perceived it as my parents clearly favoring me over her. Our relationship was getting hot and cold. I tried to love her and be kind to her. Sometimes she returned my affections, and sometimes she gave me the silent treatment. Despite all my parents' efforts to punish her, my sister found ways around their restrictions and continued to rebel by the ways of drinking, failing school, stealing money from them, sneaking around with men twice her age, and so on. This continued, and my parents just stopped trying altogether. They had tried everything and couldn't be bothered about her anymore. One day, they just sat her down and told her she was free to leave once she turned 18, and that they wouldn't try to stop her from ruining her life anymore. All the fights stopped, and in place came stony silences and disapproving sighs. My sister and I managed to have a somewhat functional relationship through it all. Yes, I didn't try to stop her from her lifestyle because I was afraid that criticizing it would make her mad. I was the only family member she was still talking to and confiding in. Then I left home for college and things changed again. The drunken, rebellious mess I knew to be my sister turned into a severely anxious, panicked, and depressed person. After a big breakup with her boyfriend that had caused her to lose a lot of friends, she gave up drugs and alcohol. However, this did not make her any better. She started having crippling anxiety attacks and could barely get herself out of bed most days. My parents were very passive to this obvious meltdown. They were of the opinion that she was being dramatic and wasting away her life. Sadly, I couldn't do much to help her since I wasn't around anymore, so I tried to be there in any way I could. She would call me multiple times at odd hours in the night in the middle of a panic attack, and I would talk her through it. She overthought a lot of things, and often I had to stay up with her and be the reasonable side of the conversation. She was constantly worried that she was going to lose the few friends she still had, and freaked out over the smallest things. I was concerned, of course. I tried to convince her to get proper help, as there was only so much I could do, but she refused to take my advice. Even though she did seek out a counselor at one point, she gave it up after attending 2 sessions. A whole year passed, and I have to admit that I was getting tired and annoyed now. I was being subjected to 2-hour-long calls on a regular basis at ungodly hours because of my sister's freakouts. She would get anxious over something we had already discussed again and again, and it frustrated me to no end. I had my own life to live and things to do, but because I was one of the few people she still trusted, I couldn't afford to lash out at her. Then she met someone on a dating app. They met in person and started dating only a few weeks later. She seemed a little happier, a little more stable now, but I was worried this wouldn't end well. She was still a vulnerable person already on the verge of a full breakdown, and if something went wrong, she would surely lose it all. My worst fears came to life once the routine honeymoon phase passed. They started to have all sorts of problems, and I hate to say it, but from what I was told, I felt that my sister was the root of most of them. She was possessive over him and overreacted to every passing comment he made. To be honest, I feel like she was too insecure for an actual relationship. If he snapped at her a little, I would be on the receiving end of an hour-long rant about how he must hate her. When she met his friends, she worried that he was looking weirdly at one of the girls in the group. Honestly, I despised these phone calls. I tried to avoid them in any way I could, even though I knew that she was really going through it. Yeah, I felt guilty, but I could not deal with it anymore. It was a cycle. She called me, I gave her advice, she calmed down, and then she would bring it up again and again. What was the point? I was just being used as a stress ball. Anyway, things got worse, and then their relationship was caught in a toxic cycle of breakup, makeup, breakup. She would tell me, I don't care about him anymore, and then beg for him to get back together with her. Weirdly enough, I felt more protective of the boyfriend. I knew what it was like to be on the other side of her. She was exhausting, but she couldn't be blamed for it either. Her anxiety was out of her own control. I felt bad for him. Imagine the pressure of being trapped in a relationship with someone so messed up that you can't even leave them because you know it would worsen their already bad mental state. Her sanity practically depended on him. But I guess there's only so much one can take. A few days ago, they broke up again. She sent me his number as she wanted me to ask him to unblock her so they could talk it out. Now, this was the first time I was actually interacting with the boyfriend, and I'm curious as to why he keeps tolerating her erratic behavior. I called him up, and the guy, 22 male, is absolutely panicking. He tells me the whole story. He wanted to end their relationship once and for all. When he tried to do so, my sister basically threatened to take her life if he really left her, claiming that there was nothing else for her besides him. He tried to reason with her and get her to see sense, but she wouldn't change her mind. When he stopped replying to her texts, she spammed him with calls and he blocked her so he could have a moment to breathe. After relating the story to me, he had a full-on meltdown because he doesn't want her to actually take her life, but he doesn't want to be in a relationship like this anymore. And me? I was sympathetic and terrified for him, and kinda angry at my sister, to be honest. This was emotional blackmail at its finest, and she needs to know that it's not okay. I told the boyfriend to keep her blocked and cut off all communication with her whatsoever, and stay with a friend for a while. Then I lied to Sis and said he never picked up, essentially making her believe she had no way of contacting him anymore. In hindsight, I was hoping that she would come off the craziness, understand that the relationship was really over, realize how much better off she was without the boyfriend-induced anxiety, and start to get better. Except none of that happened because my father found her a few hours later, overdosed on pills. Some days have passed since then. Thankfully, my parents were able to get her to a hospital in time, and they're looking into mental health care facilities to admit her. I don't know how to feel. Am I the person responsible for a suicide attempt? I thought I was doing the right thing by cutting off the root of her anxiety, but I triggered her into a new rock bottom. Should I come clean to her about everything? A part of me still thinks it's better not to bring the boyfriend up again because she'll move on from him eventually. So, am I a terrible person for trying to do the best for my sister? Am I in the wrong for blocking my family on all the social media platforms so they don't find out about my new boyfriend? I, 25 female, just started dating someone new after recovering from one of the worst breakups of my life. I'm excited to pursue this guy further because everything is going so smoothly that it's unbelievable. I haven't felt this happy in a long time. I want to take it slow instead of making it too serious too soon. Getting the whole family involved is not taking it slow, but apparently mine didn't get the memo. My parents and siblings are very close to me, and we don't really keep any secrets. There's very little boundaries between us, and quite frankly, my family is nosy. Auntie Clara got her belly pierced. Everyone knows. Little brother Jake has a crush on the pool boy. Everyone knows. Dad got mom a gift to spice up their love life. Ew. And also, everyone knows. So, I knew that the moment they got wind of my new and still blossoming relationship, they would jump like foxes on a trail and overwhelm him. I'm not exaggerating. I've had situations with past boyfriends who've gotten weird DMs on their Instagram from my older brother instructing them to treat me right and whatnot. It's sweet, but it also scares everyone away. I could not afford to lose another boyfriend because of them. I really needed this relapse, so I did the obvious and blocked every one of them on all social media so they wouldn't be able to stalk him. Thankfully, it worked and no one bothered us for a nice few weeks. but I had forgotten that one of my brother's friends followed me on Instagram. She brought it up and proceeded to show my confused and clueless brother the pictures I had posted. He took the rest of the family, and now everyone is seriously hurt that I kept this secret from them. My mom says she feels betrayed. She had been worried sick because of the emotional wreck I was after my last relationship, and she had been praying every day that I would find love and happiness. She says that the family only wants the best for me and I'm being mean by cutting them off from a part of my life. I tried to explain to her in a gentle manner that I only did so because they've messed up with my boyfriends in the past, but that only pissed her off. She says that I don't need to hide my embarrassing family from the right guy and thinks that I'm vain and selfish. I think she's being unreasonable. We don't have to tell each other everything. What's wrong about wanting to keep it personal? But mom says that I've broken their trust and I'm now uninvited from my dad's birthday party next week. Am I in the wrong, or is my family taking this a bit too far? I just want to protect my relationship from any unintentional chaos that my family could unleash. Am I in the wrong for not giving a homeless person my sandwich? I, 19 male, and my friend were coming back from a game when we happened to come across a homeless person. We were chattering excitedly about the game, so I didn't take much notice of the man until he started making noises at us. I dropped some money in his palm and didn't think much of the way he was pointing at my half-eaten sandwich. I was really hungry, having skipped breakfast, so I wasn't in the mood to share. As we walked on, my friend turned to tell me I was a total jerk for not handing my sandwich to the man. I don't think so, because I bought the food on my own. I deserved to eat it. It's not like I completely ignored the man. I still gave him some money, but my friend still thinks I'm entitled and mean for what I did, and has been cold to me ever since. Am I in the wrong here? We hope you enjoyed today's stories. Use the comment section below to state your verdict on the situation, express your opinions, and share some valuable advice.